Okay,
Eliane,
hi.
it's up. We're ready.
Okay, people. So, welcome everyone. It's very nice to be here with you to see 15 people already. And for the 11th, the bridges, right? Let's introduce our lecturer of today, that is Pedro Mena Gomes. Pedro is an old researcher of conscienciology, if we can put this way. He got to know conscienciology in Portugal in 1996, right? And then he became, almost immediately, he became a volunteer, and in 1998, he became a conscienciology instructor. So he has been volunteering since then, and nowadays he works in CAEC at the Parapsychic Dynamic and Accomplementarium, and also at Unisyn. He's currently working in the Paradiplomacy Committee and is developing researches on paradiplomacy and group karmic recompositions. I forgot to mention that he is graduated in computer science by Lisbon University, right?
Right.
So the rules of our lecture are: we will be together for 90 minutes, and the first 30 minutes, Pedro is going to deliver his lecture, and then I will kindly interrupt Pedro, and we will open for debate. This debate will take 40 minutes. And then after that, we will start a basic mobilization of energies to the assimilation, for disassimilating of what we have been connected to, right? So people, I wish you enjoy and have a very mental somatic moment with this lecture, right? Pedro, please,
Okay.
you have the word.
Okay, thank you, Eliane. Good afternoon, everyone. Are you listening well? Yeah, everything okay? Okay. So, this topic here, group karmic recompositions, it's a topic, a theme that I've researched for quite a while, especially regarding working with groups. So I work with understanding relationship with groups for quite a while. And then since I started volunteering Unison, I just went more deeper in this subject. So I'm going to present to you some research on this area, what I can until now understand about this topic, because it's really I can assume it's a really challenge topic for us. So I'm going to share with you our research and see what you can do to help me understand better this topic of group karmic recompositions. First of all, I would like to know if is there anyone that in some way doesn't know conscienciology, is the first time that is taking contact with conscienciology, because if it is, there are some concepts, some words that I'm going to bring here that maybe you don't understand. So if you don't understand, please let me know afterwards. Okay. So what can we're going to talk about this afternoon? We're going to talk about the basic principles of holokarma. Karma, it's a well-known word. We're going to talk about karma in a few moments, and then we're going to expand the idea to a concept that it's the holokarma, that is wider than karma. Afterwards, we're going to talk about evolution and group karmality. So we're going to see what is the relationship between this concept of group karmality and our evolution. And afterwards, I'm going to bring to you a concept, an idea that Professor Valdo Vieira brought to us in 1994 in a book called 700 Experiments of Conscienciology. That's the group karmic course stages. And so we're going to talk about that. And in the end, we're going to talk about some attitudes and some actions that help us in our group karmic recomposition. So in the group karmic core stage, we're going to talk about one of the stages, that's the group karmic recomposition. So we're going to afterwards talk about this, some attitudes and some actions that will help us in terms of our group karmic recompositions. So first of all, it's important that you bring this principle, our disbelief principle. So don't believe in anything that we're going to share with you, to tell you here. So experiment. It's one of the principles of conscienciology, the disbelief principle. So it's important for us to be very critical on what we hear, especially in this web conference. Okay, so let's enter our subject here, and this is the concept of karma that we know, and this concept of karma it's well known in other religions and other mystical movements. The Hinduism, for instance, they call it they know karma in terms of a law of cause-effect, but the Hindus, for instance, say that karma is something that regulates you and is deterministic. So it's not a concept that we're going to bring here. This concept of karma, it has some connections with what we're going to expose, but karma for these religions in from the Hinduism, for instance, is something that deterministic for someone. So, for instance, they say if someone is in trouble, in some problem, you can't help him because it's his karma, for instance. Or they say that if it's a karma, then if you are born in a poor family, it's your karma, so you're going to be in this poor family for your life. So there are some types of concepts here in karma that's deterministic. So karma for conscienciology, or the purpose of conscienciology, it's that definition there. It's a set of natural laws, universal laws of cause and effect that they guide the evolution of consciousness. So they guide you in some aspects, but it's based on a cosmoetical balance, self-regulating mechanism. So you have some type of free will in this sense. Okay, so it's a relation of cause effect. So if you like you see this guy there, if you push a stone of domino, in this sense that in the end this action, this behavior that you have is going to impact on you afterwards. So that's the basic law of karma in our sense, a law of cause effect that is ruled by the cosmoetics of parallel. So it's universal, it's equanimous. It's like a reversal law of gravitation. So if you do something here, you're going to impact yourself afterwards in this life or in other lives in terms of a type of energetic field that is promoted in this sense. So naturally, this action or behavior you have with others and with yourself is going to have an effect afterwards, right? In terms of cosmoetical balance. So the laws of cosmoetics is very important here in this concept. Okay, so law of cause effect. Okay, but then what conscienciology brings us, it's something wider. Professor Valdo Vieira brings us this concept of holokarma. So holokarma, the basic principles, is divided, or it's at 3 areas that you can study the karma: the ego karma, the group karma, and the polykarma. So then karma expands this idea, and we're going to explain to you what is one of each of these concepts: the ego karma, the group karma, and the polykarma. So when you think about cause effect in terms of the ego, in terms of yourself, it's the principle of cause effect that it's active and impacts on yourself only. So if you do something today regarding you, your intraconscienciality in terms of some action or behavior towards you, you're going to have this result, this impact, this effect afterwards. So, for instance, if you, let's say, if you do something for you that's not good today, like I'm going to bring this, for instance, something very radical. If you suicide yourself, for instance, that's not a cosmoethical action towards yourself. So something is going to impact on you afterwards in your consciousness in other lives, surely. We don't know how exactly you're going to impact, but you're going to impact. And on the contrary, if you invest on yourself, for instance, you do therapy, you try to recycle some of your traits, that is good. So it's going to impact yourself afterwards. So ego karma, it's like an account. The concept is like an account you have in the bank. If you deposit good deeds, good actions on your account goes better. You're going to have some positive balance afterwards. If you don't do deposits, you do withdrawals, because you withdraw from you in terms of the actions you do, then your ego karma will be on deficit, right? Will be your account will be on the red, right? So that's the concept of the karmas here, the ego karma, group karma, holy karma. It's like an account, a bank account, but in this sense, it's wider than a bank account. So that's the idea. So ego karma, when you do good deeds with yourself, good actions impact on you afterwards. When you go to the group karma, this principle of cause effect of these actions, then it's not only on you, but then it's the impact on your evolutionary group. So the actions and the behaviors you have connected to the evolutionary group. Okay? So the same in terms of the ego karma. If you are going to do some actions or behaviors towards your group, right? And these deeds are good, then you're going to have some, your account with this group will be a good one. So you have deposits. Or if you're not do some deeds or actions with these groups that you are interacting, you're going to have withdrawals. So to go on the red, this account. And finally, you have the polykarma. The polykarma, it's not only the groups that you interact, but you can say that it's all humankind in this planet and the extra-physical consciousness also. We can say it's much, much wider than just the groups we interact today and in the past. So it's, let us say, it's the maxi fraternity. It's the wider connections in terms of the consciousnesses in the cosmos that you can interact. So it's much, much, much wider than polykarma, than Groupkarma, polykarma. Okay, so you can represent this with millions and millions and billions of consciousness that we can interact and have our deeds. Okay? So, then the holokarma will be the grouping of these three types of consciential actions and reactions. So, all together, the ego karma, the group karma, and the polykarma working together in this cause-effect mechanism that regulates naturally the evolution of a consciousness. Because actions you have with yourself, the ego karma, the action you have with the groups, the group of karma, and afterwards the action you have with all the cosmos, all the consciousness in the cosmos, have, let us say, an effect on you, right? So the holokarma, it's something that regulates naturally you in the future. Okay, so this is the basic principles of holokarma. Now, what happens is that when you think about evolution, we can think about evolution in terms of yourself, your personal evolution, your individual evolution. But in fact, we are tied together, inevitably, with lots of groups that we interact in the past. So if you think about evolution, you must understand that evolution is just a wider experience of consciousness that you have for thousands of years. In these thousands of years of living, intraphysical and extraphysical, we have interact with lots and lots of consciousnesses. So this is the groups, the consciousnesses that we are interacting, that you have interact. So we are tied together with all these groups, with all these consciousnesses. So we have an evolutionary interdependency that it's inevitable. So we are inseparable of this consciousness. Maybe today, intraphysically, we are not interacting with them because they are resonated in some other place in the world. But even though we have interdependencies and we have connection with consciousness. So today, you are maybe interacting with some groups that you have interacted in the past, that you had some connection in the past, and some that you don't. And some are extra-physically, are extra-physical consciousnesses today. But you are inseparable of them. No one loses no one. You are always connected with someone that you have connected in the past. So that's important to understand, because evolution then, if you think about this, it's not an individual problem, let us say, not an individual issue, not a personal issue. It's a group issue. If you evolve, of course, yourself, you're going to help these groups that you have contacted in the past also to evolve in some way, in some time, right? So evolution, in fact, it's in group. Even though you think about, okay, I'm going to go up in the mountain and meditate for all my life because then I think I'm going to be a more evolution guy. Okay, maybe you can go some steps in this type of stairs of evolution, but to be alone is intraphysically for a start, because you're never alone, you have always with some extra-physical consciousness interacting with them. So intraphysically you can be alone, but in group you go wider, you go longer, because it's a way of evolving, interacting with other consciousnesses. Okay, so evolution is in group. So considering that, we go to the group karmic course, group karmic stages here. So the stages of the consciousness within this consciential evolutionary group, this group that is these groups, in fact, because we have interacted with lots of groups, right? So it's not only one. So what Professor Wojslaw brought us here in this concept, it's this. In the past, we have, in terms of evolution, interacted with lots of groups, and our immaturities drove us, and our lacks of lucidity brought us to some types of interprisms, right? Some types of actions that we did that were not very, let us say, cosmoetic. So it's natural that we did this because of our immaturity in the past. We are a consciousness in permanent evolution, and in the past, we had a level of maturity that surely it's not the one you have today. So it was much more immature than you are today. So this immaturity, this lack of lucidity, of discernment, brought us to do some types of actions and behaviors with these groups that we interact and that we are evolving together that were not cosmoetic or anti-cosmoetic. So in some sense, we've established some interprisms with this group. So for instance, interprisms with what we call the marginals of evolution, right? We had some, for instance, fights for power that we had in the past. That, for instance, with these fightings, maybe we just killed someone, for instance, or we just had some action with someone that promotes him, that didn't help him. On the contrary. So we are very sure about our claims, what we wanted to have. If we wanted to, we took it. It's just studying the history of this planet. We see a lot of actions, a lot of contexts that is happening in the past in many ways, in the monarchy, well, everywhere. If you study the history in this planet, so for sure, considering our evolution, we were in this context in the past. It's natural, it's obvious. So we had very much certainties. We claimed what we wanted to claim. It was for us. So we had certainties. And with this, we established prisons with this other consciousness, these groups, these various groups. In some point of our evolution, we started then to have some doubts, to see, well, maybe what I'm doing is not so good as I think it was, or it's not okay. I'm helping, for instance, to not helping people, but I'm just being against the others. I think I'm always right. I claim and I took for me what I think I own. I don't think in the others. So this type of questionings of our choices in the past started to happen. So in this point of our evolution, we started to think, okay, maybe it's not so good. And in this sense, you start to move away from these groups and do other choices, right? Better choices. But then what happened? You had some actions in this sense of the holokarma, cause effect. You have in this piece, all other consciousness, other groups. So naturally, you're going to be in depth with them, right? And being in depth, naturally what happens? You're going to be victim of this machine, this antisocial machine that you help to establish, right? And for some time, maybe you're going to be their victim, right? To pay the debts, let us say, in terms of holokarma, in terms of account, your group karmic account and ego karmic account, okay? So for a time, you're going to be like this, right? Trying to struggle to get free of this, but still being tied very much to them in the types of behavior you had in the past. When you're going to be a little bit more free from this stage, you're going to enter the stage that you're going to mention afterwards more in depth. That's the recomposition stage. So you're going to cease to be more a direct victim, and then you start to be more free from this pressure. You start to assist the victims, the other consciousnesses that you had not pretended anymore in the past, that you had some deeds with them that not okay. So you're going to mend the wreckage of these mismanagements, right? Because you're going to attend them. That is a moment that you need to be very patient, very persistent, because imagine that you are assisting someone, for instance, that in the past you had, for instance, take something from him, right? Okay, so this is a moment of patience. You have to be very persistent. And then in this fourth stage, you're going to be free more for this recomposition, and you're going to be more relieved for the pressure of the intruders that were asking for credits for you. So that came to see, oh, okay, you did this in the past, right, for me. So if you help them, you're going to be more free from this type of consciousness, let us say, that you were assisted in the past, this pressure, and you're going to be more liberated from this egocentrism, because all these actions and behaviors that make you be in the prison are egocentric behaviors. You're thinking on yourself and not the other, right? So this liberation will liberate you from your egocentrism, and you're going to have a higher sense of humanity. You're going to enter this stage of polykarmality, that you're going to be more interacting with the cosmos, with all the consciousness in the cosmos in a cosmetic way, right? So this is the 4 stages. What happens then in terms of the holokarma connecting to these stages? When you are in the prison, like we said, you are more in depth with your holokarma and Groupkarma. You're doing actions and deeds with yourself that are not okay. So, for instance, you have brainwashed someone in the past in the religion, for instance, or you have your bellicosity, you were participating in fights, let us say, in battles, trying to overcome others. You were in subjugations of slavery, monarchy, aristocracy, of fights for power, right? You just had some omissions, deficit omissions, right? So you didn't tell the others what you have to tell. So this is all behaviors and mechanisms that promoted you an interprison in the past that you have done, like in our evolution. So you are in depth with this, let's say, this ego karma and Groupkarma accounts, right? Because of your deeds. When you go to you enter the victimization more, you're going to start to doubt, and you're going to try to have some deeds, some actions that are more cosmetic. And in this sense, you're going to have some credit on your yoga karma and some on your group karma. Maybe your debt with the group karma still exists, but you're going to pay these debts with your victimizations. So these doubts that you have about your choices will help you entering yourself in some self-questioning that will help you expand your account, your credits on your ego karma account. So your ego karma will start to be a little bit more in the green, let us say, your account. And with this, having some surplus in your account, your ego karma, you can then start to think about helping the others because you have a surplus in your account. It's like a bank. If you want to lend money to someone, first you have to have money in your account that you can lend to the other, right? So it's the same basic principle. If you have some credit on your ego karma account, you're going to help the others with this, right? With these credits. So that's the moment you're going to enter more in this recomposition phase. When you pass
Pedro, excuse me, just for a while, just to let you know, we have 5 minutes, right?
Okay, no problem.
To finish the presentation and start the debate.
It's okay.
5 minutes more.
Right. So in this recomposition stage, you're going to have a more credit on your ego karma, and you're going to start to have credit also to the groups, to the group of karma, because in the recomposition, remember, you are starting to attend the others to help the groups that we have done something in the past, not cosmetic. So you're going to be some credit on your group karma. And so it's the moment that you're going to repair what you've done in the past, and you're going to reconcile and forgive and overcome resentments that you've done something in the past or someone that you've done to you. Because this moment of victimization, imagine you are a victim for some time. In this sense, maybe we just had planted some resentments with other consciousness that we have to overcome. We have to establish different links, different bonds to these consciousnesses. So we start to are willing to give up these types of anti-cosmetical behaviors that were fossilized for some time in our types of behaviors that we had, anti-cosmetical. We want to willing to give up this type of behaviors, right? So you're going to recycle and repair what we thought wrong. So, for instance, if we thought something wrong in the past of brainwashing, today you're going to say, okay, don't believe in anything. Try to yourself. Don't do this like this way. Be lucid. Have discernment before you do something. So it's to thought right what you've done in the past, it was wrong. And in this type of recomposition, you're going to starting to elaborate your cosmetics personal code. So your code of conduct, your code of behavior in a cosmetical sense. So it's a list of behaviors that you're going to have different from the past that you're going to write down and say, today I want from now on, because what you did in the past, did in the past. So the spoiled milk is already in the floor. Don't need to go there and wait for it. But to be cosmetic in the future, from now on, it's what we think it's important. So we establish from now on a cosmetics personal code and the cosmetics groupal code also, if the group that you are is prone to do this. And in the end, of course, you're going to be in an interassistential voluntarism. So you're going to be more volunteer and more in an interassistential manner, interassistential behavior, okay? So this is some types of attitudes. We're going to, if you want, go deeper and expand this idea of this recomposition space afterwards with the question. So in the end, this is the view. So all these stages in terms of the impact in the holokarma, and of course, when you go to deliberation, you go to the universalism, you think about polycarmality, you think of maxi fraternity, and doing this, you're going to open your account, the polykarman account. Right, so the ego karma, group of karma, in high credits, you can open the polykarma account. So what Professor Wojslaw says in his analysis and what he has perceived is that in general, we last about at least 750 years, 7.5 centuries, between the exiting of the interprison stage until the end of the recomposition stage. So the end of the interprison, let us say, the exiting of the interprison, and until the ending of the recomposition, starting to enter liberation, it's at least 750 intraphysical years. If you are doing much effort to do this, because if you are just entering in a way that you don't lucidity, this can be longer than the 750 years, the 7.5 centuries. But at least if you are in an effort to do some type of action more cosmoetic, and if you are more lucidity, you last at least 7.5 centuries to surpass this interprison until the liberation phase, initial of the liberation phase. Okay, so to finish, this is two orthopensatas. That's, I think it's the word that I can translate this book, the lexicon of orthopensatas. That I think it's interesting that we bring here to reflect, to make a reflection. Is these two ones? To evolve in human life is extinguishing the embers. They are under the ashes of our millenary past. So this group karmic recompositions, it's a way that we extinguish these embers that are under the ashes, right? And in general, this work, this group of karmic recomposition, when it is, like we said, self-conscious with lucidity, it happens a lot. It's very intense, and it has its roots in the intraphysical life prior to the intermissive course. That's very logical, right? Because if you go to the intermissive course, it's important that you are more in paying some of your debts, the high ones at least, that you had, or some of the high debts you had in the past with other consciousness, right? So to be more free a little bit, let us say more, not so in pressure in terms of what happened to you before, in this sense of the holokarma impact that it has on you before you go to the intermissive course. So when we are intermissivists and we assume that, we can at least say, okay, I think that we're just beginning our group of karmic recomposition at least. So that's two orthopensatas that I think it was important to bring to you. And that's it. So I think we are in our time, so I'm available for questions and for other reflections that you had during this presentation.
Very well, Pedro. Thank you. It's great to see all of this. Well, you guys, you may raise your questions, ask your questions, because this made me reflect a lot on some issues.
Okay. Hey, Pedro.
Hi, how are you?
Thank you so much.
Yeah, very good.
Good. Okay, I have this question. So, what if we start with polykarma? So I sometimes experience myself also going into, donating energies, like almost like entering penta stage.
Right.
And then it is like a polykarmic phase, I believe. Does it have an effect on my ego karma? So when I do karmic work, would it affect also my ego karma?
Right. So the first thing it's important for us to think about is, the first question we have to do is it that today we are already entering the polykarma, or is it that we are just in our group karma? That's the first question we have to think about. Because sometimes, and it's something that I also ask myself, to think about, okay, I'm just attaining, or I think that my penta or in my interaction with lots of consciousness, intraphysical, that I had this life for a start, I think, well, maybe it's just a lot of people. I just interacted with, to say, 3,000, 4,000 people, 5,000 in this life. And I think, well, it's a lot, so maybe it's polykarma. Or maybe in my penta, I see lots of consciousness that I don't recognize from the past. And I think maybe it's my polykarma. But the first thing we have to ask for ourselves is, think about how many lives you had in the past, how many groups you interact, how many people we impact. And we see that, in fact, frequently, we are still attending our group karma, in fact. it's not polykarma still. It's still our group. And that's not a problem. I think it's important. If you are assisting, we are, in fact, a little bit different from most of humankind that's still thinking in their ego, most of them, right? So if you are in this, let's say, with lucidity to see, we're going to assist, in fact, most of the time, it's still our groups from the past, not one group, lots of groups that we have interacted. So the first question we have to ask is, maybe I'm still in my group karma, attending my groups in the past, and that's okay. So this is the first question we have to ask ourselves. If you're going to ask me, for instance, what I think about me, I think I'm attending still my group karmas in the past. My polykarmality, I can't assume myself polykarmality still. My account, let us say, right? And that third account over there. I can't assume my account is open in this sense. I know my ego karma, it's in the green because I see that I'm able to assist others and I'm assisted by others. But so my ego karma, surely it's in the green. My group karma, it's in the green or in the red. I don't know. That's a question that I can't answer now. I'm trying to put my account in the green. I'm trying. So in this sense, I try to do this code of cosmoethics, this personal code, and try to be more cosmoethics with the others so I can expand that. So what happens is that when you work with the group of karma, this type of interaction with these other consciousnesses of the groups, it's not a one-way issue. You assist the others, and the others assist you. So when the others assist you, they help you sometimes to make you into some reflections of your behaviors. They help you work in your ego karma also. So this is a two-way street. So you help the others. So in this sense that you assist the others, you help expanding your account, your group karmic account, and the others interact with you and make you reflect about your behavior, saying, look, why are you doing this to me? Or, oh, you did something different from me from today, right? So good. And it forces your behavior or helps you understand your strong traits, your weak traits, okay? So this helps you in your ego karma. If you expand this research of your strong traits, your weak traits, your lack traits, that helps you recycling you, so helps in your ego, right? So in this sense, yes, if you're just working with ego, with the group of karma, it helps you expanding your ego karma also because of this interaction that you have. It's the two-way street that you implement in a different way of the past, because if you're not lucidity today of your behaviors, maybe, or let us say, our tendencies, our nature is to react and to behave very similar of the behavior you had in the past, right? It's a nature, it's human nature. You react sometimes without not thinking, and you interact the same way with the others. So the interaction with the group today, with all the group, also more lucidity of their evolution, helps you have some feedbacks, right, of your behavior, and saying, okay, why doing this? And this information is very important for you to do this type of investment on you. Then your ego karma goes more high in your account, right? Okay.
Pedro, I've got a question too. I've got a question that I started thinking about this question this week, during the week. For example, when we are in between two lives, when we are in the intermissive period,
right?
Can we work to improve our ego karma and group karma?
Yes, I think it's something that we can improve.
Period.
Yeah. Yes, we think we can. I think we can. For instance, when you think about the intermissive course, in fact, when you're doing some classes in the extraphysical in this period, in a sense, you can take advantage of this and improve something of your ego karma, for instance. So in this sense, yes, I think we can just move our accounts in the extra-physical intermissive period, right? So we can have some debts, some credits in our accounts in this period, right?
Look, yeah, I was thinking about that, but why should it just is? It's a debate, so I want to pop up ideas, let them flow, right? So that we always revisit the concepts that we have learned. And I was thinking about why should we resummate then? If we are in the intermissive period, it's much easier maybe to reach the groups that we live with, or to reach people when, why should we resummate to learn things?
Right. Because in extra-physical periods, you have more lucidity than in the intra-physical period, right? You are,
right.
In fact, that's not something that happens to everyone, right? If you think about this consciousness that decimate and resomate without understanding that this happened, they don't have lucidity in extra-physical, right? So we have to separate here, let us say, two types. These types of consciousnesses that are the most part that we know on this planet, right? That are more resomating in this planet, the Earth, that they're not aware of evolution, right? So they decimate and resomate without understanding the cycling, this concept that we are talking about here. So if they go to the extra-physical, they're not lucid about this. So they have to resomate again, because in the intraphysical dimension, they are let's say forced to interact intraphysical with all these other consciousnesses from the group. So when you are in the extraphysical without lucidity, you don't interact with the others eventually, right? You are in your little universe, your little intraconscious universe. You are in yourself. When you resomate, you forget what happened in the previous lives most of the time, right? You're not aware of that. And you can do a restart, a refresh of this interaction with the other group. So in this sense, it's a blessing that can happen. You don't remember what the other did to you, and vice versa, right? So you resonate. You have a fresh start to try to mend, to try to, let's say, adjust in other scenery, but with the same actor, with the same personage, but in other scenery today. So that's the way that the mechanism of evolution helps you to try to pass through this victimization, to this interpretation, to the recomposition stage. When you reach the recomposition stage, so you start to be more lucid about this evolution, about this concept we are talking today. And then in that time, I think that we start to be more interacting with the extra-physical dimension, with other consciousnesses. And you start to expand the velocity of this stage, let's say, the velocity of these evolutionary stages. And in this sense, when you just decimate and go to the extra-physical, in fact, there, we can start still working on this process. But we can't just bring everyone that we have and put them in the extra-physical and do this there. What we think in the extra-physical, it's very quick. So when you go to the interphysical dimension, you have the opportunity again to mend something that in the extra-physical dimension, it's difficult to do. You can put, for instance, someone that were there in your group in the past, that it's not lucidity about that. They put you there next to you that are more lucid about that. So these are the consciousness that were from the interprison over there, no lucidity. They resonate, and then you give the opportunity there, you more lucid, to help this consciousness there from the past to go over and then eventually go to the victimization phase. You can help the others. That's a mechanism, very logic. For instance, when you resonate in a family, if you are more lucid about where you go, maybe you have some part on the decision or where you resonate with whom. Who are your parents, your brother, your sister, your children. How is this happening? So with this, you can maybe interact and do let's say an interaction with consciousnesses that have no lucidity, are from your past, that in the extra-physical dimension, their way of thinking is very difficult to permit to assess them and do this, because they are very, let's say, formatted in the extra-physical dimension. It's difficult to assess them. But here, you can do this. You can interact, you can talk with them, you can exchange ideas, make them do reflections, assist them in a way that it was not possible afterwards in the extra-physical dimension, right? So this permits you to have one consciousness in an evolutionary stage, very, let us say, more from the past, and a consciousness more lucid, let us say, interacting all in group together, helping each other to evolve.
Okay, it makes sense, totally.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
Pedro, I have one question. May I?
Yeah, Douglas.
Okay, I'll try to be brief. I see some echo. Is that all right?
I will.
Okay, thank you. So, Pedro, I was thinking here, because in my experience, it's interesting to see your interactions between different groups, because, you know, there are groups that are mainly talking about science and other talk about history. You have different nations, you have different volatile things. And in my perception, you might have different accounts in terms of egokarmic, groupkarmic, and polykarmic accounts for each one of those groups. And if you analyze those groups, you may perceive differences in their behavior, and you might try to make a connection between this and whatever traits you need to review, you need to change, or what's your perception on this subject? Do you think those differences are worth studying, or do you think it's better to try to be less specific and try to group them in a more general way?
Let me see, I understood, Lucas. First of all, I think that our group karmic account, it's the soma, let us say, the adding of all the debits and credits we have with all these groups. I agree with you, first of all, because it's important to say, we don't go over the stages in let us say, in a one way, and in a process that's in one day we see that we are not in the interprison stage, and we are all in the victimization stage, in a sense that you are in different stages depending on the groups that you interact in the past. So some groups, maybe you are more still in the interprison stage, right? You have to be, you still have some attitudes, some behaviors that promote still some interprison with them. With some you are in victimization already, some other groups, or some you are in victimization, some you are in the recomposition stage. So these types of groups that you interact, that are many in the past, in fact, you can't say that they are all in the victimization, all in recomposition, all in interprison. You have to be, right, you're going to see that in a sense, you're going to have some that sometimes you don't interact today, and you think you are already in all the recomposition phase, but then you see that in the future, maybe you're going to interact with the group and you say, this group that I haven't seen before in my radar, let us say, my radar today, it's over there, and I have to, and I'm still in the victimization phase with them, right? So, or in the prison. It's not so usual if you are in recomposition to have lots of interprison, but you have already, still have some, of course, I think. So this accounts, you add the sum, all these credits and debits, and you have the sum total of them with ego and group, right? But I think that you are right. With some you are more in depth, so some you are more in interprison, some you are more in victimization, and some maybe you start to recompose, you start recompounding with them, right? So that's the first important information here. So with that, I think that what's more important in terms of your traits, I think it was your question, is as much as you expand your toolbox of tools that you can use to assist the others, your toolbox of the parapsychism that you can use to understand in which phase are you, for instance, in this group. If you expand this toolbox, it's the way that you can see what tool you're going to use in what moment with each group. So if you do an investment in this toolbox, and what's the investment in toolbox? It's this type of expanding your assistential parapsychism. It's expanding your traits, your strong traits, and invest on us to see what strong traits we have, what we have to work in your weak traits and your black traits. When you do this, you are expanding your ego karma. You expanding in terms of knowing yourself better, and with this, you have a better and wider and stronger toolbox of tools that you use each time to do what you have to do with each group. And that's lucidity when you do this, discernment. Okay, with this group, in the past I was, let's say, I overpower them a lot, I subjugate them. Today, I can't do this with them. I can't enter polarizations. I can't enter with them trying to be better than them, because if I do this, I'm just reinforcing the same behavior I have with them in the past, right? And with that, you can do this, of course, if you are more lucid about the mechanism, if you have the parapsychism that helps you understand this better, and this is the toolbox. So with this toolbox better and wider and long and with more tools, maybe you can assist and expand this assistance with the others in this sense, right? I don't know if I answer your question, but.
Oh, thank you. I have a couple of more, but I'll leave for the others so they can ask themselves.
Yeah, but I think that when you ask about these groups, and if I understood, you talk about also the groups that you interact, if I understand correctly, that are still in a sense behaving like you behaved in the past. You have affinity with them. Is that correct, what you're saying? So these groups that you look at them, you say, look, I recognize them. I'm from this group. But they are still behaving like I was in the past. Right? I have a lot of affinity with them. What can I do with them? Is this your question? Also.
That was not my question. I was focusing more. Let me give a personal example, for instance.
Okay, give me an example.
There are two. I can say that there are three main groups that I've been connected. If you talk about knowledge or types of knowledge, if you go for that technology sector, like innovation, creation, engineering, and etc. Okay, thank you, Pedro. If you talk about the types of groups that I'm involved with, if you think about the technology group, innovation group, I have a lot of strong points there. I have a lot of my Holokarmic, my Groupkarmic account there is very good. If you talk about nations and group-wide nations, the Scottish group, I have a very positive Groupkarmic account over there. But if you go for different groups, that account may not be as good based on things that I've done in the past. So it's interesting because whenever you find someone from those groups, you can see the different reactions from each one of them. And then you can make the differences between how you were at that time and how you are today. And it's bizarre because mainly people just perceive you for what you were at that time. So it takes some time for people to update their insight about you, even though the people don't remember. Whenever they contact you, they recognize that. They recognize the energy. They recognize you, but they are not lucid about it. It's very interesting. And different groups, they can tell different parts. They can help you explore different parts of your personality, of our interconsciential traits. It was more around those subjects. But it's quite interesting, the question that you posed as well.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah, I see. It's very interesting what you bring, Douglas, because when you look about these groups and what happens to you, I think you can expand this for us also, because that happens to me also, at least. What we see is that we are this group of affinity. We recognize them and they recognize you. But like you said, in a sense, you're not the same as before. With some, right? With most of the groups, you're not the same as before. And in that sense, you are an example for them. You start to be an example. If you think about this way of interacting with them, it's important that we have this approach to be more an example and less a person that tries to look at them and say, okay, do this, do that, because it's the best. If you have expectations on them, that's the problem, because these other groups that we have, each consciousness will evolve in their own pace, in their own free will, right? So what I see very much happening in terms of our interaction with groups is that we interact with lots of groups. We recognize them as groups of affinity, of groups of evolutionary groups also sometimes, but sometimes we don't have the patience, don't have the lucidity to see that this mechanism of evolution is slow, right? And we start to do some expectations on the others, right? We look to the others and say, look, but he's doing this still. What immaturity! And we start to be with resentments with that. Come on, don't do that. But look, it's his moment, right? So if we just put some expectations on the others in the groups that we interact, generally, if you do this infrequently, we frustrate. We get frustrations because we thought, oh, they should be better. They should be like me, right? And that's an approach that it doesn't help. In fact, it doesn't help because you do expectations and you frustrate. And on that, sometimes you just get over this group and say, come on, I don't want to be with them because they're immature. You don't understand this immaturity. But like we said at the beginning, the evolution is we just fight together. It's no way we're going to interact with them in the future. No, we are tied together, right? Like we said in the beginning of. So, okay, better that you don't do expectations on them. You just see that you have affinity. You give your example as possible as you can, and see, okay, if that's enough for you, for us, good. But if it starts to frustrate you, then you have to understand. And they have to understand what has happened to me because if I'm frustrated, because then it's something that we have to work inside of us, not with the group. The problem is not the group. The problem is us. Right? That we're not very lucid about these immaturities that the group still has, and it's going to have for a long time still. But if you are in a different lucidity, then we have to work better on our understanding of us and work with ours, there's a say, interconscientiality to regulate more this duality of expectation frustration. That doesn't help us and doesn't help the group. Okay.
Good, thank you.
Okay.
I have a question. Oh. Hello?
Yeah, one question here from Christoph. Just a moment. Is here Christoph?
Now I can hear again.
Yeah. Christoph.
How can I make the quickest progress without demanding too much for myself? How could you say it in words? What are the methods? Like doing good deeds or being bluntly honest with new ideas, or simply meditating a lot on changing my inner attitude? What is the best, the quickest way? I'm sorry, your mic is
Pedro.
Sorry, Christoph. You're asking me, let me see if I understood what you're asking me. You're asking me, what can we do to expand more and to increase more our self-awareness, our lucidity? Is that correct?
Not actually. The question is more, is this increasing of lucidity, is this the quickest and strongest method to accelerate karmically? Or do I have to do it in combination with, let's say, cosmo-ethical deeds, the strong breaking away from old habits and groups, and giving you impulses? What is the method? And where is, yeah, how can I make sure that I don't do too much?
Okay, I think I understood. But first of all, it's important that you make a plan for yourself. Okay? Start to do some planning on what types of investments of your time and your efforts for yourself, right? For the first time, for the beginning. So in that sense, for instance, I want to do Penta. What shall I do in my interconsciousliity and in my environment? And then you have to, for instance, read the book of Penta to see that, to see what is important for you to fix, to say, to adjust. And with that, you create some challenges for yourself, right? These challenges are group challenges. If you go to do Penta, you're going to assist the others, right? Okay? So in a sense, you are establishing a plan that is going to help the others, because Penta is helping other consciousness with other energy. I'm giving the example of Penta, but we can expand this to other topics, let's say. So you're going to do Penta. But then, to do Penta, you're going then to see yourself, to ask yourself, what shall I do to improve in myself that is going to make me be able to see myself and see that I'm able to do Penta? Then you have to work with yourself. You have to understand what are your strong traits. You have to understand to do vibrational states, to dominate more vibrational states, to do Penta, right? To establish a place in your house that will be for the Penta. So to work with your energies more in your house, to be more, let's say, involved in the house in your energy. So you're going to work with you, establish a goal that is doing Penta. With that, what have you done to you? You establish a goal that is going to be assisting the others, but to do that, you work with yourself that you have to do to work to reach that goal. When that happens, you put a goal that is existential goal. The helpers look at us and say, look, this consciousness here is improving because he wants to assist more. And with that, naturally, the helpers help us because they are also interested in our evolution, right? These helpers are from our groups from the past. They are from our group karmic. They are group karmic from us, our helpers, okay? So they are from our group, and they also they're also interested and help us, because if they help us, they help all the society, they help other consciousnesses, and they help them also, because they are interconnecting with these groups, they are interconnecting with us, okay? So with that, you establish a goal that is going to be for the group, but with that, you are working with you and helping you in your ego karma to get better. So you connect one thing with the other. You improve yourself because you want to help the others to improve. And in this, you establish a two-way path that you help the others and you are helped by the others, the helpers in this case, and sometimes the persons that consciousness you help also. So that you improve. And that's the two way that happens. This highway is two ways. So with this you go, it's like doing, for instance, to be a teacher, conscienciology teacher. What are you doing? You are studying, you are thinking about helping the others, and you have to improve yourself to have to do your classroom. Or if you don't want to do Penta, if you don't want to be a teacher, no problem. You think about this. I have a group, my family, for instance. I have some difficulties in my family. My parents, my brothers, my sister. Okay, you look at them. For instance, you have some type of feeling that is difficult with somewhat of them. What is here that is difficulty? What's difficult that I have with them? It's emotional. You go to therapy. Therapy can help me. But the idea of going to therapy, it's not only for me. It's because I want to improve, to help improve my relation with my brothers, my parents. So you have also and always these types of the intention you have. The intention is helping the others. And with that, you have more helping from the helpers. Right? Did they help? Okay.
How can I?
Okay, they have a question here.
How can I? Yeah, okay. My question is, I think it's more specific, like you had the example of to be a teacher. But if you are a teacher, and how is your students, your relation? Is a group of karma or no? Or maybe they are just interacting with them because they just need them to grow in evolution time. I don't know. I just want to know the relation between like the teacher and the student, or maybe I don't know, the businessman with your employers. Do you know how can I don't know how can I explain, but it's this type of relation that it's not very, I mean, family, relatives, and this stuff.
Let's think about this. We are a consciousness in evolution, and with that, we are, let's say, we can say millions years old, right? That's the first fact that I think we can agree with. So with that, imagine that you are millions, like we are in terms of consciousness, millions years old. And with that, we interact with how many people in this? Imagine. All the life that we had into physical on this planet, we don't know if we have in other planets, we don't know, right? Well, I don't know, in fact. But I know that in this planet I had a lot of lives. So I can imagine that things, let us say, if I make a presumption, or if I have some recognition that make me, let's say, put the hypothesis that I was here, let's say, from 2,000 years before Christ era, right? In Egypt, for instance. How many lives did I have from there to today? A lot, right? With this, imagine with how many people that you had interacted with this, depending on your personage in that time, in your let's say, relevance for the society. If we are here today, that you are studying this, we are, in a sense, and it's obvious that we are different from all this, in a sense, in what? Different that we just prioritize evolution more than the other, not because we're different from them. We are the same. We have to prioritize. And in this, we had, of course, we had some, if you study history, you know, you're going to see that we had some access to information that the others didn't have in the past also. So we had to have some, let us say, positions in the society that were higher than the others to have access to information. Just studying history, you see that. So with that, we influenced lots of people. It's a logical thinking, right? Okay? So if you assume this, imagine with how many people you had influence in the past. Right? Composing this course, the Groupkarmic stage, we had these interactions in the past, and naturally, like we said, they were based more in interpolation and victimization. you are here now and you are studying conscienciology, naturally, if you have intermissive course like we just put here, we are more looking for recomposition now, starting recomposition. In fact, I think, in my opinion, we are starting recomposition. We have a lot to do, but we start. So, if we are starting recomposition, what would be logic in terms of the holokarma, loss cause effect, and for the helpers to do? To put someone that we didn't interact in the past next to us, or that in the sense of cause effect, this person in the past comes and naturally arrives to you so you can interact with them and help them and be helped by him to assist and to do this recomposition. What will be the logic? The logic will be this person comes in this loss cause effect, reaches you, and it will be your family, your friends, your boss, the company you work with, people. Some you had more interaction with them, maybe some not so much, but in the sense, all that you interact today are people, are consciousness from the past, this logic that I'm bringing to you. So that's logic. Okay?
Thank you. Pedro and everyone, I think our time is over or getting there. We have 1 or 2 minutes more if you want to close. And well, people,
yeah, we have one more question here, just to finish, and then you can just go with the energies, okay?
Sure.
Okay, so this question is now, okay, so you said like we are 1 million years old, let's imagine that, and then we have lots of karma, right? And however, when we look back, maybe we have already solved some karma. Yeah? So we have already made work and so on. So is there a tool with which we can actually determine our level of karma where we are right now?
Well, I think that like we talked before, I think that we are today in different stages. Maybe just the microphone there, just move to that. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. So we are in different stages, connecting different groups, different stages, right? Like we said before. So if you assume this, it's an hypothesis. And if we are just investing on, say, understanding evolution like we are here today, and second, if we just research more and see, based on the description of an intermissivist is, and we assume that you are intermissivists, right? And assuming that, like we had, Professor Wojslaw told us many times, that we are the first stages of intermissive discourses. So it's very, very, very recent. These intermissive courses are very recent. Considering all this information, we can assume that for most of us, humankind that are studying conscienciology, studying this type of ideas, are more starting recompositions, and with some percentage of victimizations, and still some types of interpreting still. But what happens is that we have so many groups that we interact in the past that we can't just, it's not available for us in terms of ways to deal with this all at the same time. You agree with me? So if you just see how many groups interact, what you've done to them, what you've done to us, imagine what would be for a consciousness to have this type of information all seen, all in a block. Imagine what it is. So that's not the idea of the helper, that doesn't help us. So naturally, you're going to expand your acting, your behavior, and interaction with other consciousness. Naturally, you're going to find groups that you can assist in the measure that you can assist them. The problem is when you do this and you don't assist them, you're not lucid for this assistance, and you don't do this. You just, okay, he's here, the group is here, and just leave him there. Of course, that you have to also to see if this group wants your assistance. That's the second issue here. Sometimes the group is there and you're not able to do this with them today, maybe in the future. But if you go and say, I'm here to assist whoever wants my assistance, you are available for that, the people will come. It's like you said before, to be a teacher, to do Penta, and all these other activities that are all the same. I'm here available for assistance. You tell everyone that I'm here for them. So with that, the groups will come naturally, in stages, gradually, this life some, next life others, and so on. So with that, I can assume that most of all, our group here in CIAC and the others, in fact, I think that we are starting the composition phases with some groups, right? So the polykarma, for instance, it's still a little bit, for me, at least, in my opinion, for me, it's way in the future. In fact, what I think is that if I do my priority today and I can do good this composition, I know that in some stage I will open a polykarmic account. So I focus on this. Today, this consciousness that I'm here in front of me, what does he need? What is the system he needs from me? If you do this now, in the present, you are investing in the future. I don't worry about the future. I know the future, evolution is linear. I will be the polykarmality in the future. I know that. But if I don't do this assistance, this person, this group that I can do today, and he's prone to this assistance, I won't build this polykarmality in the future because I'm not doing my job today.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I do my job today, and I worry for polykarmality afterwards, and I think that I'm able to understand polykarmality.
Yes. So
absolutely, I get it, and I totally concur with you on that. Thank you. Just a small question then: do you think that like writing a book here is very, like in CIAC, is very much appreciated and recommended? And do you think it is a sign of maybe like starting with the polykarmic account, like if you publish a book and stuff? So
yeah, I think that the decision, like I said with Christoph before, when you do some planning and you think about planning to write a book, that's a big endeavor. Because with the book, maybe you are just investing in the opening of the polykarmic account, depending on your book. Because it is interesting that when you write a book, in fact, frequently we see that the book, not always, right? But I'm going to give some examples that happen. The book, it's still some type of retractation, some type of issue that you had problems in the past, that you have to write today to misman what you did before. Isn't it? So this book sometimes is still for Groupkarmic groups of you on the past. For instance, like Marcelo, so when it's in Portuguese, so I think in English you don't have it. When religion ends, it's a book in Portuguese. So it's an ex-priest that was here with us, and he wrote a very important book, very interesting book about when religion ends. So really, he's writing for his group of the past. It's obvious, but he can just attend this group, and maybe he will write another book. I think he will. That maybe this book will be something that in the future will be his, at least his, let us say, his initial deposit in the polykarmic account. Maybe it is just some bucks over there, not too much, but it's I have the polykarmic account, already. Can be. Okay.
Yes, thank you so much.
Okay, Eliane, I think we've done here.
Just for coming back very briefly to Billy's question. Well, Billy, I think you can take a look in the conscientiogram. In part B, there is the ego, and they mention here some attributes, some consciential attributes related to our ego karma development. It's a good tool, a good technique to measure how we are. Yeah, at least ego karma. The other two, it's a start.
I have it already.
Oh yeah.
I have it already. I have received it today from Jeff, and I will be bringing also some of
Yeah. That's so
It's a very
people,
important. Eliane, just to finish, it's important that
we
you
have to
mention
finish.
that. Yeah,
Unfortunately, our time is over.
Yeah, this is one of the books that we recommend a lot in this type of research, conscienciometry. That's really important.
And so, Pedro, can you conduct or instruct us for the work with the energies?
Yeah.
For the de-assimilation?
Okay. So today, I just talked with Paulo Freire here. I'm going to propose to you something a little bit different, maybe from the other previous bridges. We just wanted to propose to you something different, and that will be the following. I would like you, in the next 10 minutes that we have here, that you work with your energies in your home or where you are, these 10 minutes, okay? Doing your disassimilation. So choose what you're going to do. If you already know that you have the movement of energies up and down, vibrational state, exteriorize energy in your home, do that based on what you think will be the best to do today, now, in your home there, next 10 minutes, to dissimulate your energies here from what you've just worked here in this hour and a half. So the idea is not me to conduct, but you choose, you decide what is the best, and during these 10 minutes, you have the autonomy of working with your energies. If you want to just take mute your video if you want, or if you want just leave your video open, no problem. Here we're going to do the same. We're going to be the video open, working with energies. Each of us, during 10 minutes, can choose based on what you know, on what you feel it is now the moment to expand your energies, do vibrational states, exteriorize, assimilate, and we'll be back in 10 minutes. And if you want to share some of what your perception, you can do this. So be free to use your energies, expanding them, working with them, so you can assimilate all we have based here with us work here this hour and a half, okay? And we'll be back in 10 minutes, okay? So good work and good energies, and be back in 10 minutes. Okay, everyone? Okay? Everyone is okay? Christoph? André? Sergio? Everything okay? Marcelo? Liliana? Yatra? Everything okay? Egina? Aike? Jacqueline? Maria Lucy, Carla? Everything okay with you? Yeah? Want to share with us, Douglas? Want to share with us anything about the work with energies, or everything is okay? How was it?
Very nice.
May I say something?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Listening to you.
For me, it's always surprising how much easier this technique practice, even when I'm only connected by internet. Like being in another field, although I am just alone in the field.
Okay. Very good. You felt your energies, Christoph?
Yes, and they were surprisingly smooth. Usually I feel some blockade, especially in my head, where I had some serious injury. And but I don't know, today was very smooth.
Oh, very good. Very good. Anyone else? Everyone feeling okay?
I felt a lot of energies, mainly when I was absorbing.
Okay.
It was very intense field.
Okay. Anyone else? Everything okay?
Yeah, for me it's just the same. I not every time I can absorb energy so easily like today, like now. It was great.
Okay. Everyone feeling okay? Can we just close up here? Start closing?
Yeah. People, Pedro, may I have some last word? So thank you very much, Pedro. Thank you all participants, because it was a very big group. We had 19 or 20 people, and we had a lot of good ideas that are, if you want to record it for later reflections, go ahead. And that was great. Our next The Bridges will be on September 24th. And soon we will divulge the team and the researcher, right? I hope to meet you there. And I have an invitation for you guys that if you might be in Foz do Iguaçu, if some of you already are for the International Week, and I would like to invite you for the Laboratory of Verpons. That is an activity of reaprendência that will take place on next Thursday at 9 o'clock at Reaprendência headquarters. It's a 3 hours laboratory, and it's for teachers, conscienciology instructors, and candidates, the ones who want to become instructors of conscienciology. And it's exactly like that. We are going to know how to build our arguments to answer these polemic questions to students. Such some of the questions we were raised here. How would we as teachers would answer this to students. So you are all invited. If you are in Foz, it's going to be a pleasure to have you there, right? So that's it, people. Hope to see you in the next The Bridges.
I'd like to thank you for your participation. It's very important, all the questions, all the participation you had, and hope to see you again sometime. And if you have any other issue, you have my email, you can be in touch. So thank you all for your participation.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Yeah.
Bye-bye from everyone here.
Thank you. Bye.
The recording.